Have you ever wondered about the story behind the vibrant culture, stunning architecture, and delicious food of modern-day Turkey? It's a tale that stretches back thousands of years, a crossroads of empires, and a saga of nomadic warriors who built a global power. Today, we're diving deep into the epic history of the Turks. Our story begins not in Turkey, but on the vast, windswept steppes of Central Asia. Here, various nomadic tribes, known collectively as the Turkic peoples, roamed. They were expert horsemen and archers, living a life dictated by the seasons and the needs of their herds. Groups like the GKTRKs established powerful khoganates, or empires, leaving behind inscriptions that give us the first written record of the word Turk. Their influence spread far and wide. But a major turning point was coming. Around the 10th century, a significant number of Turkic tribes began to embrace Islam. This wasn't just a change in faith. It fundamentally reshaped their culture and destiny. One of these groups, the Seljuks, led by visionary leaders like Tughril Beg, migrated westward into Persia and the Middle East. They weren't just raiders, they were builders. The Seljuks established a vast empire, becoming the new champions of the Sunni Muslim world, and patrons of incredible art, architecture, and science. Their westward push brought them to the borders of the mighty Byzantine Empire, the successor to Rome in the east. In 1071, at the Battle of Manzikert, the Seljuk Sultan Alp Arslan achieved a stunning victory over the Byzantine army. This battle was more than just a military triumph. It was a gateway. It opened up Anatolia, the land we now call Turkey, to mass Turkic migration. For the first time, this region started to become Turkey, the land of the Turks. As the great Seljuk Empire fragmented, one of its successor states, the Sultanate of Rum, rose in Anatolia. But a new, even greater storm was gathering in the east. The Mongols. The Mongol invasion in the 13th century shattered the Seljuk power, leaving Anatolia a patchwork of small Turkish principalities known as Beylik. It seemed like a time of chaos, but it was in this very environment that the seeds of the next great world empire were sown. Out of these many small states, one began to rise above the rest. It was a small Beylik on the frontier with the Byzantine Empire, led by a chieftain named Osman. We don't know a huge amount about the historical Osman, but his followers, who would come to be known as the Ottomans, were destined for greatness, fueled by a potent mix of nomadic warrior spirit, religious zeal, and pragmatic state-building. Osman and his successors, like Orhan and Murad I, began a relentless expansion. They crossed into Europe, established a foothold in the Balkans, and surrounded the once mighty Byzantine capital, Constantinople. For centuries, the city's massive walls had repelled every attacker. But in 1453, a young, brilliant sultan named Mehmed II, armed with giant cannons and sheer determination, achieved the impossible. The fall of Constantinople sent shockwaves across the world. It marked the end of the Middle Ages for many, and it cemented the Ottoman Empire as a major world power. Mehmed, now known as the Conqueror, made the city his new capital, transforming it into Istanbul. The centuries that followed are often called the Golden Age of the Ottoman Empire. Under sultans like Selim the Grim, who conquered Egypt and became the protector of Mecca and Medina, and his son Suleiman the Magnificent, the empire reached its zenith. Suleiman's reign was a period of incredible territorial expansion, legal reform, and cultural flourishing. The empire stretched from Hungary in the north to Yemen in the south, from Algeria in the west to the borders of Persia in the east. The architect Mimar Sinan built breathtaking mosques that still define Istanbul's skyline, and Ottoman arts, poetry, and science thrived. It was a true global superpower, controlling key trade routes and commanding a formidable army and navy. But as with all great empires, the peak is eventually followed by a slow decline. Starting in the 17th century, a combination of factors began to weaken the Ottoman state. Military defeats, like the failed siege of Vienna in 1683, internal corruption, the rise of powerful European nations with new technologies, and economic challenges all took their toll. The empire that was once on the offensive was now forced to defend itself. It became known as the sick man of Europe, a label it struggled against for 2 centuries. The 19th century was a period of desperate reform, known as the Tanzimat. The Ottomans tried to modernize their military administration and economy to catch up with the West. They built railways, established modern schools, and even introduced a constitution. But these reforms were often too little, too late, and were met with resistance from conservative elements within the empire. At the same time, the fire of nationalism, spreading from Europe, began to ignite among the diverse ethnic groups within the empire. leading to revolts and the loss of territory, particularly in the Balkans. The final blow came with World War I. The Ottoman Empire, joining on the side of Germany and the Central Powers, suffered a catastrophic defeat. Its territories were carved up by the victorious Allied powers. The heartland of Anatolia itself was occupied, and it seemed as if the Turkish story was about to end in tragedy. But from the ashes of the empire, a new leader emerged. Mustafa Kemal, a brilliant and charismatic general who had distinguished himself during the war, refused to accept this fate. He rallied the Turkish people and organized a national resistance. What followed was the Turkish War of Independence, a grueling struggle against occupying forces. Against all odds, Mustafa Kemal and his armies drove out the invaders and secured the sovereignty of the Turkish heartland. In 1923, the Sultanate was abolished, and Mustafa Kemal, who would soon be given the name Atatürk, meaning father of the Turks, declared the founding of the Republic of Turkey. This wasn't just a change of government, it was a radical revolution. Atatürk embarked on a sweeping series of reforms to create a modern, secular, and Western-oriented. He replaced the Arabic script with a new Latin alphabet, granted women the right to vote, separated religion from the state, and promoted a new sense of national identity, based on being a citizen of Turkey, not a subject of the Sultan. From the nomadic horsemen of the Asian steppes to the founders of a modern republic, the history of the Turks is a breathtaking journey of migration, conquest, empire building, and reinvention. It's a story that has shaped not just one nation, but the course of world history. And that incredible legacy is etched into every corner of modern Turkey today. Thank you so much for joining me on this whirlwind tour of Turkish history. If you enjoyed this journey through time, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the fascinating stories that shaped our world. Let us know in the comments what piece of history you'd like us to explore next. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.